Hi. It is 9:11 a.m. on February 14, 2023. In this session we consider the fourth prerequisite in #How to Run for Mayor, the grandfather clause, local parks, sites, and attractions. Come along.
Fourth prerequisite. Local parks, sites, and attractions. The city of Memphis has never been without diversity, but with all our differences there is something in each resident that links one with all others other than the English language. If Overton, Winchester, and Jackson hadn't founded the city when they had, French persuasion may have, and following the War of 1812 there was a greater necessity to reinforce nationality in settlers so they wouldn't revert. Whatever land this is, it can generate tax dollars, but more importantly allies in democracy in the wilderness. People could call on the king or the president all they wanted, we're sure they will come eventually, but where would that leave us now without local administration? Claiming land for future development, the body of Memphians grew as services afforded tax-paying citizens multiplied. Surely, not solely from reproduction, the standard of living attracted those in the vicinity to agree with local democratic administration. Why? Well, because of any other body of people, those English would prefer not to be governed by those French who had built a fort in 1739 and claimed the territory for France 60 years later. What we see Memphis as today was a blank slate yesterday where within its boundaries space was set aside for citizens' recreation. With over 150 parks, sites, and attractions, Memphis there is over 5,600 acres of land for Memphians to meet on common ground. In them the city strives to provide the healthiest, safest, and most positive environments with a vast number of programs and recreational services. On this land Memphians may celebrate life with fellow Memphians, which strengthens their minds and bodies. Generating work from citizens' administration is that much more humane, providing local parks, sites, and attractions for their recreation.
Though outside city limits may have been a wilderness, within local parks were set aside for their recreation. After business of the state, it is natural that man congregate, and knowing this city planners allowed space within cities for residents and guests to do just that in peace and return home like everyone else in America. Memphis 1.0 had been conceived since 1790 by John Rice, who obtained a 5,000-acre grant that included the riverfront and a tongue of land separating the Mississippi and Wolf rivers, whose flow has changed since then. After Rice was killed by natives, Overton bought the land from Rice's brother and sold half to Jackson. With Winchester joining the partnership later, the three would hire Lawrence Williams to survey the land. A classic grid with 4 squares, court, auction, exchange, and market, was the founder's vision, and the historic grid pattern laid has stood the test of time. This city may be urban now, but it has put care into certain outdoor areas where citizens may enjoy nature without being in the wilderness. Since then, city parks have been expanded where in view of the bridge there are several parks for outdoor recreation: Martyrs, Mud Island, E.H. Crump, Tom Lee, Vance, Ashburn Coppock, Fourth Bluff, Cobblestone, Butler, the Old Confederate, and River Garden. The park system has grown much further to where every community of a certain size that qualifies has a park or parks to meet the needs of the community. There is a balance in leading a happy, productive life where prosperity is also seen by economics, but more so measured by quality of life.
Aside from parks, the city has many sites that it may do many better to visit, as Memphis to Memphians ought to be better than any other municipality. The Memphis Zoo, Lichterman Nature Center, Chucalissa, and Memphis Botanic Gardens are but a few major hallmarks of the city. Citizens can play golf at any of the many links at Fox Meadows, Whitehaven, Galloway, Audubon, Pine Hill, Milk, Lucille McWhorter Senior Center, and 9 holes at Overton. It may be best to explore the many Memphis museums: National Civil Rights, Stax, Memphis Rock and Soul, Dixon, Fire, Children's, Cotton, Slave Haven Underground Railroad, Pink Palace, and Planetary, Art at University of Memphis, Bell's Asian and Judaic Art, National Ornamental Medal, Chucalissa Indian, Woodruff Fontaine House, Memphis Brooks, Blues Hall of Fame, W.C. Handy Memphis Home, Withers Collection, Mallory Neely House, Memphis Music Hall of Fame, Edge Motor, Sultana Disaster, David Lusk Gallery, Burkle Estate, Bale Street Blues, Greenwood, and Ducks Unlimited Waterfowling Heritage Center. Museums unlock the truth of yesterday, or a truth that most who understand English would feel more comfortable accepting.
Home to more Tennessee historic landmarks than many would believe, the city has developed into a hotbed of activity where every day new campaigns start, grow momentum, and move on to bigger and better, returning next year for an encore. There are several historic landmarks that make Memphis significant in a national scope: the Spanish War Memorial, Columbus, Colonial, Chickasaw, Robert R. Church, Handy, Brinkley, Army, Mud Island, Martyrs, Court Square, Cobblestone, and Gaston Parks are of the more major attractions. They are tourist attractions because they reach further than the scope of the city's residents to encompass and prove the foundation of history from which we had come. Tennessee historic landmarks, which may be of great importance to citizens of the city, may not be so for those of the nation, but anchor the heritage of the state in a unique and distinct way. Some are Bale Street, Chucalissa, the Delta Queen, Graceland, Sun Recording Studio, the Civil Rights Museum, the Pink Palace family of museums, Brooks Museum, and Dixon Art Gallery, to name a few. Not that we couldn't keep adding, but we really just don't have the time at this present moment.
Local parks, sites, and attractions have developed tremendously since May 22, 1819 as space within the city where residents may meet on common ground was and is ever needed. On the original grid plan of the city obtained by Overton, Jackson, and Winchester from John Rice's brother and laid out by Lawrence Williams has stood the test of time. There are other spaces set aside for civilian activity, because just as important as it is for man to work, it is just as to rest where parks are made more accessible.
That is all the information we have for you today. If you are prepared for the pop quiz, close your books and think about the answers you plan to deliver. All others tune in again next week as we cover the 5th prerequisite. Thanks for your time and consideration.